Hey everyone.
Hi.
Welcome guys.
Hi.
So we are going to wait for a couple of more minutes for everyone to join.
Okay. I just realized that this session is going to be on YouTube.
Hi. Yes, this session is going to be live on YouTube.
I didn't think that my picture was going to be at the bottom of the screen.
Sorry, can you come again?
Okay. I didn't realize my. It's okay.
Okay. So we will start in next 2 minutes. Okay, let's get started, guys. Thank you all for joining in. I hope my voice is clear to you all. If there is any problem, then you can type your comments in the group chat, and we'll be taking care of that. Okay, so today we are going to talk about how to cut down your cost of your app development by 5x. Let me just go to presentation. Yeah, so it's a very interesting topic that we have for today. So it's going to be presented by myself, Udit, and my friend Narik.
Hey guys, I'm here.
So this is about us. We have been developing software for past 8 years, and we have worked with a lot of international companies to help them develop their software. And over these years, we identified certain practices because of which a lot of softwares were getting delayed and cancelled and failed. So we're going to let's look at that figure itself, which is a very alarming figure. So based on our research, we came to know that almost 84% of projects are of all the 84% of projects. Okay, I think my presentation you guys cannot see.
Yeah, one sec, guys. There is one sec. Opening up and share the screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go back to my presentation. Is it visible now?
Yeah, I think it's visible now.
Okay, so yeah, great. Let's move ahead. So this is myself, and Narek. So yeah, based on our research, we came to this alarming conclusion that almost 84% of all the IT projects are delayed or go over time or over budget. On average, if you are starting a new project, then if you continue with your current practices, there's a high probability that your project will be overrun uh, by 33%, overrun its schedule by 33%, and its cost by almost 66%. So if you are thinking of spending, let's say, X amount, you're going to actually end up spending 1.5 times of that X amount, and that 1.5 times is also on the lower side. Generally, it's 2 times of that amount. So today in this meetup, we are going to understand what is causing this, right? Why do a lot of IT projects fail, right? How is software development so different from other processes of product development, right? And we are going to understand what practices we can follow to avoid these traps, and how can you create affordable and cost-effective teams to cut down your budget on next IT project. So yeah, first fact that I want to bring to your notice is software development is not manufacturing, guys. So in manufacturing, you come up with a certain process and then you keep on just replicating it, and with the help of machinery, right? But that's not software development. Software development involves a lot of people with different skill sets. So let's look at these individual points, right? So software development is a highly opinionated stream. Everyone has their own opinion of how to design a particular feature or functionality. So unless you have proper designs in place and proper documentation in place, it becomes very difficult for your team to make a decision on how to build a particular feature or functionality, right? And software quality is also very subjective. Every person has different quality standards, and hence quality check by a certain professional may not ensure superior quality unless approved by stakeholders or yourself, right? So you should have your own quality standards in place and put them and communicate them effectively to your team. And as I said earlier, there are a lot of people with multiple skill sets involved in this process. We have designers, project managers, developers, testers, and domain knowledge. So any person can directly impact the process of progress of software development. So unless there is an effective communication channel between the team members, it will become very difficult to have a successful IT project or software project. And unlike manufacturing, in software development, it's very easy to bypass steps. So there are a lot of novice professionals like developers out there who would just quickly jump onto programming without even considering about designs and software design and UI design or user experience. So you should be very careful that you follow all the steps in this process diligently. And technology domain is extremely vast. There are so many technologies available today. We have Ruby, we have Python, Java, C#, JavaScript, and almost every technology can help you build the same website and same feature or functionality, but not with the same scalability or probably same robustness or performance. Hence, if the care is not taken to understand the customer needs very well and how your software is going to be used before even building it, it's highly likely that you may not get what you actually wanted, right? So this is a very important fact that a lot of entrepreneurs who are not aware of how software is being built, please accept that software development is not manufacturing. It's not like manufacturing. It's completely different. So here is a small illustration to help you understand. So if you look at this illustration very carefully, if you look at the first image here, this is what customer explained to the team, programming team. And if you look at the last image here, this is what customer actually wanted. So in most of the scenarios, project owners, customers, clients, or whatever you call them, entrepreneurs, are really not aware of what they actually want, right? Because of which they communicate something to project leader and he understands something else, and engineer designs it some other way, and you can see the rest, right? The most alarming thing here to notice is that on the bottom left, the project is never documented. So there is no proper document to refer to if any designer is not really clear about certain requirements, or if developer is confused about certain requirements, there's no proper document to refer to. Unless there's a proper document to refer to, these guys will apply their own instincts and apply their own design, and you will end up getting something else. So in a sense, if you want to build your software, make sure that you don't repeat this mistake. So these are some of the common traps that people fall into. So to begin with, first one is trying to copy blindly, right? So since we have been working with a lot of clients over the past so many years, we have come across clients who would communicate their requirements in this fashion, like build me a clone of Uber, or build me a Tinder for recruitment industry, or build me an Airbnb for renting my personal items. While this may sound like a good way to give a first impression about your product to someone, but it's a very poor way to start building your project, right? So something which may have worked for Uber or Airbnb or Tinder in their own geography or in their with their own customer base may not actually work for you with your customer base. So it's important that you understand what your customers really need, and you refer to these websites like Uber or Airbnb, but you just don't copy blindly. You refer to them smartly. You identify what are the functionalities and features in those products which can fit very well in your product, right? And which your customers will like. And then you come up with your own features and functionalities which will satisfy your customers. Second thing is, which is the most primary reason for a lot of software failures, primarily in the outsourcing domain. I wouldn't say in the enterprise domain, but primarily if you talk about startups and if you talk about projects which are outsourced, the major reason is too lazy to document. There is no proper documentation to refer to, right? Most of the communication happens verbally between the client and the execution team, and then after a couple of months or a month, you come to know that okay, they have built something which you never really wanted, or they have focused on something which you never really thought is important feature or functionality. So it's very important when you are working with, let's say, outsourced team, or when you are a small team, when you are uh, working with remote teams, uh, and especially in enterprise, it's important that you document your software requirements very, very clearly. The third primary reason for failure is no prioritization of features. So there are going to be a lot of features and functionalities in your app, right? And if you start building everything right from the start, you wouldn't know what your customers are interested in. So I'm sure you would have heard of a term called MVP, which is minimum viable product. So MVP is not just a product, it's a process. So and with MVP, you identify the right set of features and functionalities which differentiates you from other products, other competitive products in the market, and helps you stand apart from them. And you focus on those features and functionalities which are important for you right now to get yourself started, to put yourself in the market out there. And then progressively, you take feedback from your customers. You understand which features are important to keep and which features you can remove. And you understand what is the customer behavior and how do you need to change that behavior. So based on that, you spend more time on certain features and you spend less on other ones. And that's how you go about building these features. So when you're running a startup, believe me, there will be a lot of things to do, but you cannot do everything. You have to focus on a few things which are extremely important and critical for your project, and just do them, and then keep on building the rest as you progress based on the customer feedback, right? So these are the 3 points. Don't try to fall in these traps. Try to make sure that you refer to other applications smartly. Document everything before you hand over that document or hand over your idea to somebody else to develop it. And prioritize your features. Know very clearly what you want after a month, what you want after 3 months, and what you want after a year, right? So yes, as our favorite Arya Stark, like our favorite Arya Stark, you should be very, very clear about your requirements, what you need, and you should communicate them effectively with confidence. So we have created a very simple template for you to follow. It's a very simple template which you can follow to communicate your requirements. So this is the template which we generally ask our customers to fill up when they communicate their requirements to us. So it is very simple. The first step is you need to clearly define the purpose of your app, right? So, for example, what is the purpose of Uber, right? The purpose of Uber is to help commuters find taxis in real time and pay cashless, right? So, as simple as that. Secondly, you identify the type of users who will use your app, right? So, if we take the example of Uber again, so there are two sets of users. One is a commuter who wants to hire a taxi, and second is the driver who is ready to take that commuter from point A to point B, right? And third is you can identify similar apps to refer features from it smartly. Like there would be some competitors in the market already who would have spent a lot of time and energies on coming up with right set of ideas and right set of functionalities. So be smart about that. Copy from them, refer to them, but refer smartly and identify those similar apps in the market. Do a thorough research on what are the apps which are exactly doing or doing similar things with what you want to do, right? So if you are building, let's say, Uber for Indonesia, then you can refer to Uber app or Lyft, right? And fourth point is that you should clearly call out all the desired functionalities that you want in your app in a priority. So for example, in case of Uber, let's say you will have certain features for drivers. The most important feature for drivers would be receive taxi booking request, right? Unless they receive a taxi booking request, they'll not be able to proceed further. Similarly, most important features for commuters will be to view the list of available taxis and send a request to book. Right now, it can be, to begin with, it can be very, very simple. It doesn't have to be very fancy. There doesn't have to be even a map feature in your app, right? Because you just want to test out whether customers would be interested in your product or not. So communication is very important. So this is a small template that you can use for effectively communicating your requirements. Beyond that, if you want to go beyond this, then there are a lot of other templates related to user stories, which are available on internet, and you can refer to them, and they are more detailed and they will give more clear picture to your development team. Second effective tool for communication, which is simple enough and quick, is wireframing. So in order to create your wireframes, you don't really need to have any design skills, right? You just need to know your users and what functionalities they are going to or interact with in your application, right? Mind it that wireframing is extremely important before any development work starts. Before you decide to, before you start putting that effort into hiring a development team or an execution team, make sure that you wireframe your application, because it will give you a very clear picture. Plus, what wireframes will help you do is it will help you find the exact budget and time frame for your product. If you give your requirements very not with clear thought process, then the timeline and the budget that you will receive from the other end will also be very vague. So make sure that you wireframe before starting any development work. In case you're not able to do that yourself, try to hire a freelance product designer who will quickly get this done for you. So ideally, it should not take you more than a week or 2 weeks once you are clear with your idea, once you have done thorough research, right? And if you are tech savvy, you can use tools like UXPin and Proto.io. There are a lot of other tools also available on internet. You can explore. You can just type wireframing tools in Google, and it will just pop out a list of all the popular wireframing tools on internet. Okay, so there is a question in this group. Somebody is asking, what's a wireframe? Okay, that's an interesting question. Let me explain what's a wireframe. So wireframe is basically an outline of how your application, what are the features your application will have. For example, in the image you can see, right? We have, with the help of your paper and pen, you can just draw out, like there should be a profile, user profile, there should be a list of drivers, and then user should be able to click on that. Just one second. So there should be a list of drivers, there should be certain action buttons in the app, and once user clicks on those action buttons, what what action can happen in the app. So wireframes is a very crude way to tell your execution team how your app will work. You don't need to have any design skills. You can just take a paper and start drawing on it. What will be the buttons? What will be the elements in your app, and how user will interact with those elements. So I hope this is clear to you. And moving forward, so now the important question is, once you have clearly called out the requirements, once you have decided to move ahead with your project, the most important question is whether to set up an in-house team or to outsource, right? A lot of people struggle with this question. So we have figured out 4 points for you, 4 questions to answer. And if the answer to any of those questions is yes, then you should outsource your project. If all the answers are like no, then you can do it in-house. So the major reason to outsource is one of the major reasons is low budget. So let's say you are trying to build a complex application, and you are from a country, let's say US or Australia, where the cost of engineers is higher compared to other developing nations like India and Ukraine. So, and your budget is not really high. I mean, you are running low on your budget and you want to cut down your expenses. So the better option is that you can outsource this work to countries like India or Ukraine, where the cost of engineers is extremely low compared to your country. And then you'll be able to spend a lot of time, you'll be able to save a lot of money there itself. Okay, so there are a couple of questions here. What's considered a low budget? Can we have numbers? Okay, so it depends. So if it depends on like, so if I give you an example, like let's say you want to develop an application while staying in US, right? So in US, average salary of an engineer is minimum like $80,000 a year, and in India, the average salary of an engineer here is like $8,000 a year, right? So there is a 10 times difference. So the low budget varies for every person. Like for some people, 10,000 would be the budget, right? While for others, it could be 100,000. For somebody else, it could be 500,000. So it entirely depends on you. It entirely depends upon your application or project that you want and the scope of that project also. So in order to build a simple application, you would require 2 developers for, let's say, 3 months, right? So in US, it will come to around cost of $15,000 to $20,000. But if you outsource it to India, it will come out very less, close to like $8,000 to $9,000, right? So Narek also wants to share a point here.
Yeah, guys, I'll jump on some. Yeah, there is no, like Vikas said, there is no absolute answer to low budget. It varies and it depends on the type of the app, like Udit mentioned. And I would like to ask answer to other question. What is how much details is expected in the wireframe? So why wireframe is a good way to communicate with engineering team? First of all, you will make sure all of you are on the same page. And like there is a saying, like one picture contains 1,000 words. So for developers, it's easier to understand what exactly you want. On wireframe, like the details which you include in Scrum, there is a thing called user stories, which is like how users are going to use your application. Let's say if someone clicks on a button, what is going to happen? So in that case, the highest priority thing, what you want to get, you can kind of draw that on a paper, all that features, like all that buttons approximately. So this is again, coming up with exact answers very hard. So if it's clear for developers what you want, then it's fine. If it's not clear for developers or designers, then you need to elaborate your wireframes. And the good thing is to use like InVision app, where you can make your wireframes actionable. Like you can kind of create areas and simulate how your wireframe is going to work. This will kind of save some more time on explanation, like how things are going to work and etc. Also, there was one more question I would like to answer to that one, like how you determine which technology you need before selecting developer. This is again very kind of interesting question. So coming up to this, we had similar stories, like how you determine technology. First of all, I'll bring a few examples before going into answering to that question. Like recently, a person from Israel contacted with us, and he was asking for a WordPress developer, and without any explanation what he wants to build, he's like, I need a WordPress developer. I want to build an e-commerce website. Then when we got the similar links, like similar apps which he wanted to kind of build, what happened there that there is a good tool called a technology it's called Built With. It's a website. Yeah, you can check Built With, and we check competitors' websites. All were built with totally different technologies. So one way is like you can check what is competitor using, right? And on that kind of more or less you'll get idea what technology you are going to use. But competitor might be using bad technology, you never know. So in that case, what shall you do? You should kind of come up with, let's say, with business requirements, like build a proper BRD. Let's say in case of e-commerce, I expect to have, let's say, 40,000 SKUs or 40,000 products, and I expect like 20,000 people to visit my website. So based on this, developers will identify more suitable technology. And but sometimes even developer might not be skilled one, and he may suggest the technology he knows best, since it can be implemented with any technology. In this case, what we suggest is to contact with 5 to 10 people and get answers from all of them, and kind of see which one is sounding more reasonable. Kind of anyways, most of them are going to come up with same answers. So you can then decide like with whom you can continue. They will come up with, they will suggest technologies. But why selecting technology is very important. Let's say happened the story when one person reached to us, and a requirement was this: I want exact same replica of WhatsApp with B2B features, and I want tech stack which is used in WhatsApp. WhatsApp is using customized eJabber in backend. If you're technical, I mean, you'll understand. So, and eJabber is written on a very rare technology called language called Erlang. So, what happened? We spent 1 year for bringing, for adjusting the backend. It was very hard to find a developer who knew Erlang, and eventually we wasted a lot of time. But the good option was to use some kind of a third-party API, let's say Pusher or PubNub, which are responsible for a chat, and that's it. There would not be any requirement to need to develop that feature by yourself, that backend by yourself. You just simply integrate it with it, with some third-party thing. So, like I said, just reach out to many people and see what they're responding. Ideally, and there is one more thing, like which is called in agile development, which is called poker estimation. It's like project manager is kind of talking with developers, and everyone is estimating like some feature without knowing others' estimation. So in the same way, don't contact with developers, but without sharing like your conversation with or other developers' estimation, and you will kind of based on kind of inputs, you can decide with whom you can continue. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Narek. To elaborate, I actually want to answer this question also. So a lot of times it happens that I have come, based on my experience, I'll tell you, I got a project from a person who was trying to build a dashboard for some industry, and he wanted me to build it using Angular 4. Yeah, so it's very recent, like 3 to 4 months back, and I told him that we do not have Angular 4 developers right now, and it will take a lot of time to educate or train existing developers, right? So I gave him an option that instead of, I mean, he was an entrepreneur, he was building an MVP, right? So I told him very clearly that why do you want to build an MVP which with a technology that is going to take you twice more than other technology with which you can just build it within a couple of weeks or a month, right? So there are a lot of other technologies which may not be old enough, like you could use Angular 1 or Angular, or you don't even have to go to React. You can use jQuery also, which is quite old compared to these new frameworks. So most of the times what I feel is that entrepreneurs try to complicate stuff a lot by trying to fancy technologies. The best option is try to find which, so if you're not building an enterprise grade application, this is the scenario where I'm talking about, where you're not building an enterprise grade application and you are a startup and you want to just get your product out in the market and test it out with your customers. The most important thing is to build it quickly, right? So your software doesn't have to be very scalable or very robust initially, right? So you can build a very beautiful software, very good looking software in any technology. It could be jQuery, it could be Angular, it could be React, or it could be any other framework. So just go ahead in this scenario, just go ahead with one where developers are available to you immediately if you want to get started quickly. Unless you have a development team in-house which is already working on certain technology, this is what I would suggest. And so coming back to this thing, whether you should outsource or whether you should develop in-house. So regarding low budget, as we discussed earlier, it's contextual. It depends on the project owner, how much their spending capacity is. And we have got projects where people said, build me this complex feature within $300. And we would used to laugh that this is something which is not doable within $300. But it was their budget, right? And then there are people who could spend more than $1 million, but they just want hardly a small application. So, but that doesn't mean that you do not try to find the most cost-effective option, which we are going to discuss later in this. So moving forward, the next important point to figure out whether you should outsource is when you want to start immediately. Hiring an in-house team is very time-consuming, believe me. If you try to set up your own team, and if you are not, if you do not have enough people, so it's going to take a lot of time for you to set up, to hire new developers. So if you want to start, it may be up to like, for one developer or two developers, it can take up to like 2 months of time if they have notice period in their previous company. So if you want to start immediately within a couple of weeks or even a month, you can go ahead with outsourcing. And thirdly, if you do not have any prior experience or expertise of building a software, if that is not your core business, then don't try to do it, because if you're gonna fall very hard on your head. So if you are not in the business, or if you do not have done software programming, or are not closely related to software or technology, or even if you do not have anyone in your close network who is doing software development, then do not try to go ahead developing it yourself. Try to outsource it. And if there is a shortage of talent in your city, right? So if there are not enough engineers in your locality to help you get started immediately, or there can be a scenario like you have a lot of big, like in Bangalore, or I'll talk about Hyderabad. So Bangalore and Hyderabad have a lot of technology product companies like Amazon, Google, and they hire good programmers with very good salary. So it's very likely that you will, if you want to hire those programmers, and if you're not able to pay that much amount to those developers, then also, I mean, then also you should try to outsource. Yeah. So I hope it's clear to you guys when to outsource. Let's move ahead. So now the important question is whether to outsource onshore or whether to go for an offshore remote team. So let's take two primary aspects of software development. The first is software application design, UI and UX design, and second is basically development and testing, right? So both of these aspects are really, really important. So to start with design, most of the design decisions are going to be heavily influenced by you. Since you are the project owner, you are the client, you are going to provide a lot of personal inputs. So it's important that you have your design team within your time zone or within your own city, so that you can communicate with them very effectively and provide quick feedback. And design iterations are also very small. Like if you give some work to designer, you expect him to return back to you within a couple of days. So you would need to have more meetings with your designers. So if designer is located in some far off city within a different time zone, then you may not be able to match it up to him or her. So try to have your design team onshore so that you can work effectively with them. But regarding development, you can go anywhere around the world. So development iterations are very long, starting with 2 weeks of sprints. So once you have, and most of the development work relies on the design files itself. So once you have communicated your requirements to developers and provided them with design files, most of those developers will be able to pick up the work from there and do it on their own, at their own pace. So you could just provide them the requirements and ask them to get back to you after a week or couple of weeks. So and you can easily communicate with them remotely, where they can give you a demo over Skype or some other online channels. So development work is easy to outsource at offshore locations, and it will also help you save a lot of cost. If you are living in US or if you're living in Australia, you can cut down a lot of your expenses by outsourcing your development work to countries like India or Ukraine. So going forward, I think it's clear right now. So we recommend that you do design work onshore within the same time zone, and you can put the development work to offshore locations. So now let's look at some of the outsourcing options that are available in the market. There are primarily 3 options which are available. One is freelancers. Second is transparent remote teams, which is not a very frequently used word. And third is offshore software agencies. So let's look at each one of these options individually and try to understand which option would be right fit for you at what point in time. Freelancers, right? So freelancers are basically people who can work with multiple clients at a given point in time. So if I'm a freelancer, I can work parallelly with 2 or 3 companies together, and I could work part-time for one and full-time for other. So we recommend freelancers for short-term work. If you want to build something very quickly and it doesn't require a lot of effort and doesn't require a lot of time, then we recommend you to just go ahead with freelancers. And if you want an expert advice on your product development, and it will be very hard for you to sustain an expert for a long period of time if that expert advice is required only for short term, right? So it's uh, recommended to go with freelancers if you want some expertise, expert knowledge or domain knowledge on certain, it could be either technology, it could be either domain, or it could be either design. So out of all the other roles involved in this process of software development, we recommend that product UI designers, architects, and testers are the best fit to be hired as freelancers. So if you have a software development lifecycle of, let's say, 6 months, product designers would be required in the initial 2 weeks or a month. Architects would be required in the initial 1 month, and testers would be required in the last month. But developers would be required during the entire life cycle. So these are the right people whom you can go with as freelancers. But anyways, you can hire anyone as a freelancer as long as you're able to manage that work properly. Going ahead with transparent remote teams. So this is not a very frequently used word. It's not thrown around very frequently. So not a lot of people are aware of this terminology. So what I mean by transparent remote team is a team which is dedicatedly working for your project on a full-time basis, a remote offshore location, and at their affordable, at their local salaries. So it's not like you're working with an agency who has defined their own rates, and you don't know what exactly those developers are being paid. So when we say transparent, we mean that you exactly know what these professionals who are working in the remote location are getting, and you are directly communicating with those guys. So transparent remote teams, we believe, is the most efficient option for you to build your product iteratively, because we know from practical experience, we know that it's very hard to build a product within a couple of months or 3 months, which will be loved by customers. A lot of entrepreneurs come to us and they want to build something very quickly within a month or 2 months, and they want it to be really, really good. So it is very hard to do that. It's not really possible. So in a practical real world, it will eventually take you 6 months to build something which is loved by your customers. So if you are prepared with that thought, you can choose an efficient option upfront itself, right? A lot of entrepreneurs in haste, they take this quick decisions. Okay, I need this thing in 2 months. That's why let's go ahead with this team. So a lot of times it happens that sales professionals outsell themselves. Like they will say that we will do this in 1 month or we will do this in 2 months, but hardly it's not doable. So you should try to reach out to people, developers themselves, and understand that when developers clearly say that they will build something in 1 month, then you can believe them, right? So don't believe salespeople, believe in what developers or product managers say. So we recommend you to set up a team of professionals in remote locations and work directly with them, and they will get exactly what you pay. So the average cost of engineer in India is $8,000. Yeah, $8,000 a year, while in US it's $80,000 a year, right? So in India the cost is like 10 times less. Direct correlation, right? So if you hire a team in India, something is going to cost you, let's say, $500,000. It will cost you $50,000 here. So now you may be thinking, right? How will I collaborate with those guys? How will I hire them? How will I manage them? How will I trust them? Because I don't even know whether they are really, I mean, how will I do the background check, right? So a lot of these questions will come into your mind. So there are a couple of companies here. So we ourselves have started this concept of transparent remote teams, where we help businesses to set up transparent remote teams in India. And yeah, so we will talk about this later. Let's talk about agencies now. So Narek here is going to talk about offshore software agencies.
Yeah. So guys, So there are like many agencies and like in a world, and they have a lot of sales people, a lot of operations people, HR, and all these things. So why generally we don't recommend to work with agencies? Because agencies, especially if it's an agency based in remote location, and you don't see each other, different time zones, you are far away from each other. So so probability that something will not work is very high, and the way most of the agencies work in Eastern Europe, India, Vietnam, or in other destinations, they basically serve as a middleman, because only 10 to 20% of your project budget is is being spent on engineering team. Rest is going on something else. Yeah, and so that's why, like, what is happening, like in India or in Ukraine or in Poland, there are like a lot of cases where like companies are hiring like an engineer for $700 per month, and they are like selling for $5,000 a month, like contracting for $5,000 a month. Yeah. So, and in this case, kind of a ROI of your money is not high. So, so like going with agencies really is not a good option. I will try to bring you an example about these agencies and for how we are getting the data, so you can compare things by yeah, so you can figure out things by yourself also. Let's say I'm not sure how many of you know about Clutch, but Clutch is a website where agencies are submitting their feedbacks and portfolio or on what they specialize. Let's say I'll showing Clutch, let's say a company. So like we can go to, like we can check this company. Generally, how these companies work. So Clutch has bases in San Francisco and Australia, like Appster, sorry. And I'm just bringing this example. There are like a bunch of companies you can go and check. So what is happening? These companies have salespeople in these locations, and you go and meet with them, and kind of they give you the pricing. Salespeople, like Udit mentioned, might come up with little bit unrealistic things. Then for kind of for making a sales deal done, and eventually you'll be surprised, like, wow, salespeople said something, but eventually I got something else. So you see, like their rate is $50 to $99 per hour. Generally, these agencies work in this way. They sell you a resource, and what is a resource is one engineer, right? So basically they hire engineer, like this company is hiring engineers in India, and in San Francisco sells like $50, starting from $50 an hour. But let's go to Glassdoor and kind of see how much, right? Let's say how much people are getting paid in India for this company. So numbers are mentioned in Indian currency. Let's say you will see like a software engineer in this company is getting paid $500, or this guy's being paid $1,000, and this guy's again $500. So let's say if you build a team, so, and if you work with this kind of an agency, what will happen? That basically developer who is getting paid for $1,000 a month in a remote location, since they have a base in San Francisco, they're like charging you at least $50 an hour for that developer. So, so yeah, you see like a difference is kind of a quite big. So what we suggest is that's why working with agencies is a little bit hard. And the other thing is agencies, also some small agencies, which have very less information about themselves, like verifying their work is very hard. Some companies may come up with fake portfolios. You might see in their website, let's say, an app which is similar to yours, but there is no guarantee that was done by that agency. So that happened a lot also in our experience. Like some agencies stole one freelancer's work, and they're like putting in their website, and you can. And if you're using Upwork, I'm sure you'll find a lot of people like that. So so this is one of the problems. And other thing is, let's say you might reach to an agency for particular skill set which they have, but turnover in this kind of a companies is very high, and there is a good chance that that person is not working in that company already. So they don't have that skill set yet, but sales guy should do his job, and he should make a sale, so they will promise you, yeah, that we have that person. Yeah. Okay, so back to our presentation. Yeah. So okay, so yeah, so I think agency thing is clear, and I can go ahead with a lot of examples. I think who is interested, like after this, you can contact with me, and I will explain in detail why agencies are not a good option at all, because ROI is very low, and chances of failure are very high. And here we have a data from Glassdoor and PayScale combined with Clutch, Good Company. So there is a lot of data here which we collected and tried to visualize in one chart. So let's say we can go with small services companies. They usually charge $20 an hour. These kind of companies are usually based in Ukraine, Russia, and Central Asia, Vietnam, and India. Their engineer salary is around $300, $400, depends on company. Each company may have different type of engineers, but usually it's very low, and you get very low quality. Then medium service companies, which are Appster, SourceBeats, and similar, like who have 250 engineers or 500 engineers, they generally charge like $50 an hour. And as you saw, they pay a little bit higher, $1,500 for their developers. In rare cases, it starts from $500 again. Then big service companies, which are TCS, Infosys, or Cognizant, which have more than 150,000 engineers working. They charge $60 an hour, and yeah, quality is a little bit higher than what you will get in previous two mentioned kind of a group of companies. And average salaries there are like close to $800 to $900 a month in these locations. And with remote teams, you get very, very high quality, and let's say with low rates, because you are basically paying their salaries, like what's going to be the salary of the person. Then we, and in this slide, we will I'll try to explain why quality is going to be high. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, IBM, and all these companies, HP, they have a lot of offices in Eastern Europe, Romania, Bulgaria, Poland, and way more in India. So average salaries, let's say in India, in these companies are close to $10, $11 an hour. And these guys basically, from these offices, they work on the same products like Gmail, Chrome, what we use on a daily basis. So work is shared across all offices, so around the world. So the same these product guys kind of salaries are around this much, and these are superior guys. They are like very strong guys compared to guys who work in services companies, because generally these guys are not going and joining the other companies which is mentioned like on the left side. Yeah. So coming to where to hire remote team. So there is a company called Tolons, and which did a study which are top destinations for hiring software engineers, and they ended up on these following cities in India: Bangalore, Hyderabad, NCR, like Delhi, Gurgaon, Noida, Mumbai, Pune, and Chennai. Let's not forget that India is an extremely huge country, and let's not look at map and see, okay, on map India looks a little bit quite small compared to other countries, but if we take population, India is like South Africa plus North America, South America plus North America plus Russia plus Germany plus France and plus Australia also. So it is very big, and IT industry in India is clusterized. It's a $150 billion industry, services industry, and it's very clusterized. Especially most of the IT companies are based in Bangalore, and these companies, like let's say IBM, HP, like last 30 years they are here, so they have the work ethic and work culture is going to be kind of quite close to. So there won't be any cultural gaps or any communication gaps, since this company, since people, especially in these areas, have kind of already a big experience working with kind of branches which are based in other countries. So these are good locations for kind of finding people. You can search, you can check Tolon's top 100 locations. Right next after to these Indian cities are coming like a Polish and Polish cities. Yeah, some and some are in Germany. Some cities in Germany, but cost-wise it's slightly costlier there. Yeah. So more or less this on this slide. Then yeah. So yeah, like I said, again, a few points like I missed in previous slide. So why again these cities? Because almost all Fortune 500 companies are based in these cities. I'm mentioning cities, not whole country, because as you see, there is a very kind of a population-wise, India is quite big, and in this cities, kind of from all over India, kind of people kind of go to these cities for finding work in these companies, and they're like filtered. Developers are already filtered. So like Microsoft, Oracle in Bangalore has more than 7 huge offices, and 30,000 people work in Oracle, and mostly in India, 30,000 people work in Oracle and mostly in Bangalore. Also population, especially in South India, they speak English very well. So that's it. That's a very important point, which is little bit which might be a little bit problematic if you're dealing with Russian, Ukrainian or Polish engineers. Yeah, so yeah, so if it is and coming up to the question, is it time consuming to set up remote teams? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thanks, Narek. I'll take it from here. So now that we have come to a conclusion that setting up remote teams is a very efficient solution to build your product iteratively, the big question is it time consuming to set up remote team? Yes, if you try to set it up yourself, it can be as time consuming as setting up an in-house team in your own country, right? But there's another solution to make it quick to set up that remote on-demand team. So we are offering a service called Prolanceer.com, where we have developed a platform and we attract those professionals who want to work with international startups and who are available on demand. And so you could work with them for part-time or full-time, and you could set up a team on demand within a couple of weeks to a month. And so there are a couple of other services which you can go ahead with to set up remote teams. So ideally, it's suggested that you find a local supervisor in any country where you're trying to set up, to find a local supervisor to help you manage and hire your team, because it's going to be very difficult for you to figure that out yourself. Okay, so now that we have decided to hire that remote talent, there are a few questions that you should answer to identify whether that person is right fit for your company or not. And these are some of the questions that we listed out. First of all, it's important to know the qualification of that person, check about his education, whether he is from a good college and whether he has at least done a bachelor's in technology, and make sure that the person has great communication skills. And by communication, I just don't mean being good at English. So that person should be able to speak your language. I mean, by speaking your language, what I mean is that he should be able to understand what you're trying to convey to him, and he should be able to convey to you his thought process. So even if he's bad at English, that doesn't mean he's bad at communication. So try to make sure that he has good communication skills, and most importantly, that guy should be really passionate enough, because there may be times that he would be working independently and remotely. So there should be a fire within him to work on that application or work on technology. So you can check this by asking him questions like how does he learn new technologies, what are the latest trends going on in the market, and how does he keep updated to them, does he attend technology meetups or not, and is he active on open source community or not. So if the answer to all these questions is yes, then that guy is surely passionate about technology. And other thing is he suitable for remote collaboration? So in remote collaboration is not same as working with somebody within the same building or within the same office, right? If you're working within the same building, you can just quickly go to that person and resolve any queries, right? But in remote collaboration, you have to set up proper meeting, you have to set up a proper connection and everything. So make sure that this guy is really proactive, that this guy is proactive enough to bring those issues that is blocking his productivity up to you and try to resolve, and he tries to resolve them quickly so that your progress doesn't get harmed. So make sure that this guy is proactive enough and he's more responsive, and that guy would be ideal for remote collaboration. So yes, going forward, now that we have hired the talent, we need to know how to effectively collaborate with a remote team. So even whether it's a remote team or an in-house team, most important thing is that your communication should be documented. So whatever requirements you have, how you want to proceed with your application development, what are the goals of your application, what is the vision, everything should be documented so that any developer or any design can easily refer to it at any given point in time. Also, if there are any conflicts, there's a document to refer to resolve those conflicts, right? But if you had done it verbally, like there would be nothing to refer to. So try to keep things documented, either remote, even with in-house team. And with remote team, it's important that you clearly call out all the goals. So you need to clearly set that after 2 weeks, let's say it could be like in this manner, like after 2 weeks, this feature needs to be delivered. And it may happen that for those 2 weeks, you're not even talking to that person, and he in the background he's completing the work, and after 2 weeks he comes to you and updates you with the progress. So the goals should be really clear. Developer should know what he has to deliver and when he has to deliver, so that you are not bothered again and again by the developer on chat channels like Slack or Skype, right? So remove any cultural barriers. So if a developer is in remote location, so it may happen that you're not able to have that uh, very smooth bond with him initially. So try to make sure you understand him, try to know more about that person, and try to share your stories with him. If possible, I would say that within 3 months or 6 months, try to visit that person or your team, and or bring him onshore, anything which is cost effective for you or whichever works for you, and try to reduce those barriers, and make them your friends, have beer with them. Yeah. And last point is make efforts to help them grow in their career. So if you help them grow in their career, they will help you grow in your business. So help them understand their goals, understand what they're passionate about, and support them in their whatever work they want to do. Uh, so if I think if that works out well between you guys, it will be. I mean, it doesn't matter whether that person is located remotely or on site, as long as that person is happy working with you. So I think that's about it. Uh, so all in all, to gist, if I mean when we talk about cutting down your cost, so there are two primary things which you should do to cut down your cost. First, make sure that your project which you start today never goes out of over budget or over time. So in order to do that, follow all the practices that we mentioned: clear requirements, clear communication, all documentation, right? So make sure that even if I mean, nothing overruns budget or time. Secondly, we shared a very cost-effective way with you to set up remote teams, transparent remote teams, which is like 10 times cost-effective for you compared to your on-site team, especially for US countries. And yeah, for other countries, it could be up to five times. So try to follow these practices. I'm sure your project will be successful. Thank you for your attention. We can take any questions right now. We are open. If you have any questions, I think we can unmute these. You can let us know about your questions on uh, Google Chat, and we will unmute you. Okay, do we have a question? Can you look at the handouts? So there was a really participating community. So on YouTube, a lot of people were responding, and we were having back and forth communication.
I think, Chang, I'll try to answer to your question, like what we mean with an agency. So agency is, if you were following us from the beginning of presentation, so from the middle of presentation, we were talking about outsourcing. So with agency, we refer companies like which are based like in Eastern Europe and India mostly. You can refer Clutch. So in Clutch, you will find those agencies, and you will see like the rates they charge and the salaries eventually the people are getting. And if you are building an app, and if you need like few backend developers, one project manager, two front-end developers, it will cost you a lot if you are going to use an agency, like which is the same Clutch. And I'm not sure that even if let's say profit margin, if only 5% is going on engineering team, that will kind of give you what you want. Because if we look at this thing logically, like this, people are being paid for producing a product. So if they are paid less, probability that they'll produce more it's less likely. And this is, and we live in knowledge economy. So eventually, everything is coming from the developer and not from a salesperson or from others. So you can just kind of, if you feel that there is some incorrectness in the data, you can just go check the clutch, check the numbers, and then you can get information from Glassdoor or Payscale. There is a lot of data in Glassdoor and Payscale.
So there is one more question that people have pointed out, that local agencies are very good. So in clutch.co, we took a sample set of few agencies which were mentioned to be based out of San Francisco and other cities in USA. Okay. And what we did, we went to their LinkedIn detail pages. We went to LinkedIn and tried to check those agencies to see where their employees are working. And guess what? More than half of those agencies' employees were based out in India or Ukraine.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to tell you is that these companies are in US. A lot of agencies are based, but they are just a sales team. They just have a sales office in US, but the entire development team, execution team sits here back in India because it's so cost effective for them. If they're giving you some engineer for $50, for that engineer they're just paying 500. They're just paying $5.
Yeah. Also, Chang, like other things, like you can meet local agencies and you can work with them. There is no problem in that. We're not saying it's bad. It's as long as we're just saying what is going to be the ROI, like how much money you are going to spend. Let's say you are spending $1 million. Is there a probability that you can? Is there a possibility that you can do same thing with spending $500,000 and another $500,000 you can spend on marketing? So as an entrepreneur, we're trying to suggest to come up with options which have high ROI.
Exactly. So that's why we mentioned transparent remote teams. So there was a question that he doesn't have clarity about transparent remote teams. So by transparent remote teams, what we mean is it's like an in-house team but located in a different country. That's it. And since you do not, and by transparency, what we mean is, like, unlike agencies, here you know what salary is being paid to what person. So if you work with an agency, you really don't know how much the developer is getting. You just pay to an agency, right? So let's say if agency charging you $50, you don't know how much salary the developer is getting. He may be getting $5 an hour. But when you work with transparent remote teams, you exactly know how much these guys are getting because you yourself are paying them directly. So we are a platform basically which is very transparent. So we help you set up transparent remote teams in India, and work directly with them, collaborate directly with them, and you pay exactly what they get.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't hide anything. So that's the difference compared with agencies.
We generally suggest, like, you can use there are like similar companies in US also, like you can go with Gigster, you can go with Crew, and those are also kind of they have very, very good, and we have personal connections with them, so they also provide extremely high quality, and they have a very, very
high rates.
Yeah, high rates, and they have extremely good talent as well. So so you can kind of check them as well. In Upwork is also a good solution, but in Upwork, kind of you will find a lot of agencies also. So kind of in Upwork, the only problem is going to be like to find the right candidate, but Upwork can also solve
yeah, Upwork is really good, but the problem is there are so many people on Upwork. If you post a project, within half an hour you'll get 100 requests. So you don't know who to hire, right? It will take a lot of time for you to do that trial and error. So we have pre-vetting in place, which is peer-based pre-vetting. So that helps us only allow qualified engineers to apply for projects on our platform. Yeah, so that's about it. If there are more questions, we can take them. Anything? Can you please check Google Hangouts?
Yeah.
Okay. You are saying that you are
Yes, so somebody is asking for the PowerPoint. So yes, we'll share the PowerPoint later. And if you want to refer to this video again, you can just go to that meetup link, and we have presented the link to the video there itself. So if you have any more questions, you can visit our website, or you can join our Facebook group, which is Idea to MVP, or you could post comments on Meetup group, or you could even join our Slack channel. So in order to join our Slack channel, the details are mentioned on the Meetup group itself, in the Meetup event itself. So, or you can visit our website, prolanceer.com, and send us a contact request there, or start a chat with us. So I think that's about it. If you have any more queries, you can reach out to us in the future, and we will keep on hosting more meetups on different topics in the future. And looking forward to talk to you guys again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your participation. It was really an active participation during the event. Thank you all. Have a great time. Bye bye.
Alright,